and welcome back to the Kimberly Lovey podcast. I am joined by my gorgeous supermodel friend, Abby Querrey, and she just gave birth. How long ago, Abby?
1 month.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yesterday was his month birthday.
Oh my goodness. So Abby is my neighbor, and she is kind enough to come and basically just remind all of us what it's like to have a newborn baby.
Yes.
This is your second baby. How old is your first baby?
He is 22 months, so almost 2.
Oh my goodness. So you have your hands full, sister.
Yes.
By the way, if you guys saw this woman, she literally, I turned to her this morning. I said, how do you look like you do after just having a baby like weeks ago? Like she literally looks like a supermodel. And she's like, oh,
Should have seen me when I woke up this morning
I
or
woke up like
Sunday
this.
morning.
So little baby Owen is here with us, you guys, and it's his first podcast. Welcome, baby. He's sleeping in a little carrier. He looks so cute, like literally makes your ovaries hurt. He is the cutest baby.
So tiny.
So tiny. How big was he when he was born?
He was 6.5 pounds.
Aww.
And we were shocked. I was like, did I do something wrong in my pregnancy? Why is he so little?
How big was Ford?
He was 7 pounds, 12 ounces.
Oh.
So not huge, but much bigger than 6.5. But we're almost at 9 now, so we're making up for it.
Wow, way to go. Okay, so as you guys know, I am also carrying baby 3 now. And I'm starting to get to that point. Like I just hit the 3rd trimester. And in the first 2 trimesters are all about you and,
right.
how just you basically, how you feel and all of that stuff. Like once that 28-week mark hits and you're officially, like the app is like, welcome to the 3rd trimester. Yeah. I'm like, like that's when you start, like it gets real.
Right. Because it almost doesn't seem real in the first 2, especially when they're not kicking or moving. And you're like, okay, logically I know I'm pregnant, but I can't feel anything. I look a little different, not that much different. And then, once you hit the 3rd trimester, the apps are like, baby's almost here. You're like, okay.
Totally. So I had that moment. And so let's see. Today I'm like 28 weeks and 5 days. Oh, wait. Here, look. See? 28.5. Baby 3, girl.
Little bump, though.
Yeah, but I'm still, okay, I've held flat. I don't know if you heard before. So I actually had gotten in trouble for gaining too much weight this time, too fast.
Oh,
but
really?
The last couple weeks, I didn't gain anything. So tomorrow is my appointment, which I'm really just dubbing my weigh-in because let's be real, like I just don't want to be yelled at again by my doctor. So anyway.
Oh gosh. Yeah. That's terrible.
Yeah. So I gained the last 2 pregnancies. I had only gained 24 and 25 pounds. And then this pregnancy, I've already gained 30.
Okay.
30. And I'm like almost 29 weeks. That's like, doesn't sound as bad, but.
No, I gained 45 with my first.
But you're like really skinny, and the skinny girls need more.
Yeah, and I ate everything in sight. I was like, I'm pregnant. I had all this time because I didn't have a toddler, and all I did was stuff my face. It was so fun.
That's so awesome. And okay, so that was with Ford. He gained 45 pounds. And then how much did you gain with him?
I think like 30 to 35.
Did you start heavier? Like you're starting?
Yeah, I think I started about 5 pounds heavier. And I think like, when you are chasing a little one around, you don't think about food all the time. It's more just like you're kind of grabbing stuff and you don't have this
eating their leftover mac and cheese.
Right. And you're not just sitting there like, what can I order on DoorDash right now at 9 p.m.,
Yeah, I know. I totally know. And but now it looks like you've already lost all your weight.
I haven't, but
you look so good.
I can't button any of my pants still,
I don't know if I should be friends with you like for like a couple months after I give birth.
That's why it's good. It's winter. We'll all be wearing sweatpants still.
I know. If anyone wants to send me really cute sweatpants, I'm down for that.
Yes.
Anything that kind of looks like real clothes, but is actually more like pajama leaning.
Stretchy.
Yes. Loose, stretchy, cozy. Okay. So Abby grew up on a farm. Can you please enlighten the people? What on earth?
Yeah, so my family is in the citrus business. So I grew up on a 40-acre orange grove, basically, which we didn't have animals or anything, but it was really fun. I was outside all the time. My uncle hunted. We were very like outdoorsy people, and it was a really cool childhood. So it's interesting for me to now live in a suburb, and there's neighbors and like kids in the street, and I think it's so fun because it's so different than how I grew up.
So, and what city was that in?
In Fort Pierce, Florida, which you've probably never heard of. It's about an hour north of West Palm Beach, if you've heard of that. 2 hours north of Miami. Smallish town, but it was really nice.
Okay, and do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have one brother. He's older and he still lives in Florida.
Okay, is he manning the farm?
He is not. He works for Apple, so he's more of a techie person. No one really followed in the footsteps. My uncle mainly ran that, and my dad kind of works in citrus too, but I don't think anybody's going to take over the Family Grove business.
Oh, too bad.
I know.
I feel like
kind
that's
of sad.
Probably a really good business to be in.
Yeah, it's cool, but I think it's just kind of fizzling out.
Okay. Well, that's very different. I don't think I've ever met anyone that's actually from a farm. And it's funny because where we live now is like so quiet and serene, but it's funny because you're like, oh, this is like what I always wanted. Neighbors.
Right. I thought it was so cool when I would go to friends' houses when I was younger. And I was like, oh my gosh, neighborhood kids just come over. Like, people don't have to drive over. You can just spontaneously have a play date with your friends. How cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a small town. And so, okay, so how did you end up way out here on the West Coast?
Yeah, so I moved here for my husband, Sam, when I went to University of Florida. And then when I graduated, I actually moved to New York and started modeling. So then I was kind of all over the world for a couple years, and I would spend a couple months in Italy, a couple months in London, in different places. So then I actually met Sam when we were both in London for the first time. He was there playing tennis and I was there modeling. And we dated long distance for a while, and then inevitably he was like, why don't you just move here? And I said, okay. And that's how we ended up in LA. And then in March of this year, actually, we decided the suburb life was more for us than city life.
So you were like a real model, not like an Instagram model. Like there was an agency.
Before you had to write your Instagram handle at a casting, I modeled.
Oh my God. That's like legit modeling. And so, can you tell the people, so who exactly is your husband?
Okay, so my husband plays tennis professionally. His name is Sam Querrey, so that's him.
So he is a world famous tennis pro. And it's so funny because when you guys moved here, I personally don't know anything about tennis, but he told me that he grew up out here. And
he grew up in Thousand Oaks.
Yes, that is so cool. There's a lot of professional athletes and celebrities and stuff that grew up out here.
Yeah, there's a couple other tennis players actually that are from the Thousand Oaks area as well.
That's so crazy. Okay, so then you marry a professional tennis pro. And so where does that take you on your journey? Do you start traveling with him? Like, what does that life look like? Tell us. We're regular people. We want to hear about the sexy life of a traveling tennis pro.
And I actually didn't think it was so glamorous at the time. And now that I'm like, have spit up in my hair and, I'm waking up all hours of the night and drowning in diapers, I'm like, wow, that was really cool what we used to do. And kind of the pandemic has affected that as well. But yeah, after we had been dating just about a year, which I look at now and I'm like, that was nuts that you just kind of dropped a lot of things and started traveling with this person that you'd known for a year. We kind of came to the decision that like, if I kept modeling and I was going to all these different cities and traveling all the time and he was traveling for tennis, we were really never going to see each other. So it was kind of like if this relationship is going to work, somebody has to sacrifice their job, and it obviously wasn't going to be him. He's a little more successful than me. Yeah, we spent like 8 months of the year on the road traveling to all these different cities in the US, internationally. So we were just gone all the time. We'd be gone for 2 weeks, home for 1. And I think when you're in the midst of that, you think to yourself like, oh, I just wish I had a normal life and I was home. And then once you have that normal life, it's amazing. But you're like, oh, I haven't been on a plane in a long time. And that was kind of like a really cool life that we lived, where we were just exploring and we were with all of our friends, who were on the tour and their wives. And so it was constant travel and kind of exhausting, but it was, really cool. A lot of the tennis cities, you're in Rome, you're in London, you're in Paris, you're in Melbourne, Australia, you're in Shanghai. So you really get to go just everywhere within the course of a year.
Wow, that's crazy. So how was the community? Like, it sounds like you were able to foster friendships. Is he on a team?
Tennis is an individual sport, but you see the same people at most of the tournaments, and some of Sam's best friends are also on the tour, and he's mostly spends time with the American guys, and their wives are all really, really nice and good friends of mine. So it was pretty fun because you'd go to all these places, and you're just, the guys are practicing or playing all day, and you kind of got to explore and hang out with your friends. So it was pretty cushy looking back.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it would be pretty lonely to have to travel without kind of having some friends. So
Yeah.
It sounds like you're able to foster a community of people. And when you were traveling, were you traveling with anybody? Was it just you guys traveling and then you meet up with people? Like, how does that go down?
Yeah, we would travel with Sam's, like if he had a coach at the time or a physiotherapist who he travels with all the time. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times, if the wives didn't go, you were just at dinner with a bunch of guys. So that could be a little,
my old job.
That could be a little hard. I remember in the beginning, I just didn't talk at dinner because I was like, well, I can't talk about football because I don't know anything about that. And all these people have known each other for like 10 plus years. And in the beginning here, I'm coming in and I'm like, I can't take part in any of these conversations.
These are essentially business dinners, right, for your husband. So you don't want to say the wrong thing.
They wouldn't sound like business dinners if you were there. But I just didn't have anything to, add.
Contribute, yeah.
But the wives and girlfriends of most of the guys are really nice because everybody's kind of in the same place. They're all traveling. They don't have, people with them. So everybody's kind of, most of the girls were super friendly and nice, and everybody's kind of looking for people to hang out with. Mm-hmm, so that was good.
That's awesome. I feel like that'd be very intimidating initially, especially if you weren't married yet. Like, are they judging you and all that kind of stuff?
I don't think there was ever an example where I could, confirm, okay, this person was definitely judging me. But I do think because, with anybody's girlfriends, there's some turnover, right, with people. So maybe girls didn't get as close to people if you're like, okay, they might not be here next week or next year. So I do think like once I was engaged, married, I felt a little bit more stable. Like, okay, I'm here to stay. People don't think that I'm going to like disappear next week. Mm-hmm. But no outward actual judgment.
Yeah. Got it. That's so cool. And so where did you guys get married?
So we got married in Fort Pierce, actually, in my uncle's backyard, which my parents and my aunt and uncle live on the same 40-acre grove, and I've always wanted to get married there. So we had a really small wedding, 45 people, in 2018, and it was perfect because we weren't big wedding people. We just wanted to do something small and quiet, and even like because at that time we traveled so much. The week before we were in Paris and we both looked at each other and Sam was like, "Are you excited for our wedding?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Me either." And I was, "Don't say that, Sam. Like, how can you say that?" But we were just so tired from traveling all the time that it seemed so exhausting. Okay, now we have to go to Florida and get married. Like, but we ended up having the best time. And afterwards both said, okay, that was way better than we expected. I'm glad we did that.
Oh my gosh. I totally understand that. In my past job, I used to travel every week too. And all the things you just said about just the grind and the dinners and the being, coming home. Like, I don't think after I quit my job, Abby, I don't think I traveled for like 3 years because I just wanted to be in my bed. And it doesn't matter, when you don't travel all the time, like, I don't know where you were staying. I assume really nice hotels. And I got to stay at really nice hotels too, right? So initially you're like, this is great. I'm staying at the Ritz-Carlton in Paris or wherever you are, right?
Right.
But it's like just another hotel after a while.
It's living out of a suitcase. It's eating every meal out. It sounds so spoiled if it hasn't been something that you've done. But when you are on the road and you're going, it is really exhausting. And you get home and you're in your own bed and you're so happy to be there.
There's nothing better. It's like the most incredible feeling to be in your own bed.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times Sam and I have laid down in our own bed and been like, isn't this so nice to be in your own bed?
Oh,
and waking up and making scrambled eggs in the morning somehow is just like the best.
It's funny because it's like also, this sounds really not relatable either, but This was after our honeymoon actually, but I was like, wait, I have to get up and go make my own coffee?
Right? I'm not just walking downstairs and it's there.
I'm so confused. Yeah. So anyway, it's definitely a grind to be on the road. It's fun, absolutely, but it gets old. And then it's interesting that you guys had such, I don't know if it's glamorous or fast paced or whatever that kind of word is for, that was one chapter. And so then you get married. And then how long after do you guys have kids?
So we had Ford in February of 2020. So we got pregnant about a year after we got married. So, in that year we traveled a lot. I traveled a ton when I was pregnant up until I think our last trip we came home in January beginning of January, and I gave birth February 19th. So we were still going. And I was actually, my whole life plan was to travel everywhere with Ford once he was born. But then the pandemic hit and we had all these restrictions with tournaments, and we kind of, tried to travel a little bit. But if you're kind of locked in a hotel room with a mobile baby, it's not so fun. So I ended up halting my travel much sooner than I expected because I thought I would do what all the other tennis wives with children did, which was they still go everywhere, but because COVID hit, we kind of stopped that. So it's like that chapter of my life kind of ended without me playing, like I wasn't ready for it to end. And now that I have a second baby and, COVID is still around, I'm like, wow, that I just didn't expect for that to end so abruptly. And when it did, because, we'll still try to go a few places, but with two, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, it really is. And so is he supposed to be traveling soon?
He is. He's going to Australia in January.
Oh my goodness.
But that, they're so strict there. I thought for about 5 minutes, like, okay, we're packing up all the kids and we're going. We're not going to be apart. And then realized that was a terrible idea. So we won't be doing that. But yeah, he'll be there. And then he still travels a decent amount. I think he'll kind of lessen it now that he has babies and doesn't want to be gone as much, but he still does quite a bit.
Wow. That is so crazy. That is really crazy. Okay, so now I want to talk to you. Thank you for sharing all of that, by the way, the background. So I'm starting to get nervous.
Oh yeah. This baby's coming.
And okay, so this is what I want to ask you about too. And this, for anybody out there too that is pregnant right now, it's like, I think it's because of the pandemic that it's adding a layer of stress that I didn't have before.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm starting to have nerves about the actual delivery and like, is it going to be safe? Like from a COVID perspective, and is the nursing staff going to be, good quality staff? Because,
right.
The labor shortage, and then I've been hearing nightmares about labor stories and things like that. So how was it delivering in like a quasi-COVID world? Like, was it any different? Are you allowed to bring guests or visitors?
I think you were allowed to have one visitor. We didn't, just because, it would have been my mom who came to stay with my other son, Ford, but I don't think she could have brought Ford. So there wasn't really like a point to that. It was pretty normal. I remember worrying before. I was like, I'm not going to know what my nurses look like. Like, I'm not going to see their faces, because you kind of look to your labor nurses to be a little bit of a comfort during that time. And I was like, I can only see their eyes. I'm going to hate that. But it actually was fine. I didn't have to wear a mask while I was pushing, which I was also really worried about. I was like, there's no shot I can go through this whole process with a mask on my face. I'm going to be so claustrophobic. But since, we're vaccinated, we didn't have to wear it at that end time. I would say it was pretty normal.
Okay. And so leading up to the pushing, did you have to wear a mask?
Initially, you wore it when the nurses came in, and then you could take it off. But they kind of stopped caring if if they walked in the room and you had it off. They didn't say anything. I don't know how it will be at your hospital, but I wasn't too worried, because I know that they're so safe. The rooms are so sanitized. There's signs everywhere about it. They're checking people's vaccination status when they're coming into the hospital. I think they actually just stopped testing the pregnant women and their partners, but I think they were originally testing people as soon as they got into the hospital.
I was going to ask you that. Did you have to provide proof of vaccination or a COVID test?
We didn't have to provide a COVID test. I think when you walk into Los Robles now, they ask you to see it. So we showed it then. But it was pretty normal, and I wasn't super worried. And maybe I should have been super worried about contracting it, but it all felt very sterile and safe and good. So that was nice.
Okay, that's positive. And then do they discharge you quicker?
You know what? I don't think so. We stayed 2 nights, which was what we did with my other son. We delivered in a different hospital because we were in Santa Monica before. But I didn't feel like they tried to push you out. And we like never saw anyone else. I know there were a lot of other families there that had given birth because they said they were super busy, but we never saw another soul the whole time we were there.
Wow. Okay. And also, here's another question. Is it obnoxious to have a baby shower after you've already had one? Did you have a baby shower for Owen?
I didn't, but I don't think it's obnoxious, especially because baby stuff changes so fast that probably everything you had with your kids, there's something new and allegedly better. And did you save your clothes? Did you save all your stuff?
I did. We saved a lot of stuff. However, a lot of the stuff, like the baby stuff that is gender neutral, we gave to my sister for my nephew. And so we don't have another baby girl. So we have a lot of like little girl dresses and things of that nature. But as far as like, onesies and things like that, like they're, like the more of the basics that you need immediately, like fresh jammies, fresh onesies, fresh socks.
And that stuff gets so ruined too.
It does, because they have their
stage.
blowouts and everything.
Blowouts and spit up, and you don't really have the energy to be stain treating everything and spot removing at that time. So you just kind of throw it in
out.
And it comes out stained.
It comes out stained. Exactly. And then you don't even want to pass it on to the next baby because you're like, you deserve better.
I saved some stuff from Ford, and I was taking it out and looking at it, and my thought at the time was, whatever, the next baby will stain it too. And then I'm looking at how gross some of it is, and I was like, okay, you have to throw this out. Like, you can't put another child in this. So I think you should have one.
Yeah, I might. Brian is so funny because I said to him, I wanted to have a baby shower, but now thinking of all the work, I don't know if I want to do it.
Someone needs to throw it for you. So someone listening to this, one of your friends, needs to step up and throw you your baby shower.
Hint. No, Brian, like, speaking of men, like, just bless our husbands. We have great husbands, by the way, but I just have to say it's so funny because he's like, oh, you just bring like 10 friends over and like get some champagne and, you don't have to make it a big thing. And I'm like, oh, how little you understand.
No, but your whole house has to be clean and decorated, and you have to feed people when you invite them to your house. So it's a big undertaking when you're in your 3rd trimester and you have 2 kids.
Yeah. And I just don't know if I don't know if I have the energy for it, Abby. Okay. So are there any products that are new that I have to add to my registry, or that any of us listening have to get or be aware of that you've been like, oh my God, I needed this so badly. This is great.
Well, I don't know what they had when you had your kids. Did you have the snoo?
It was out, but I didn't use it.
We have that. Some people really don't like it because they want babies to learn to self-soothe, which obviously is important, but at the same time, like, you just want your sleep. And I think that worked really well for us with Ford, and we've used that again with Owen. We have this, it's called the Kikaroo Peanut Changer, like the changing pad, and it's rubber or silicone or something so that, like, if there's a blowout, if there's an accident on it, you're not like, it's not soaking wet and you're changing this pad in the middle of the night because you just wipe it clean. I think that one's great.
Okay.
We have this little lounger pillow called the Snuggle Me that we just set on the counter and he sleeps in. And obviously you watch them to make sure they're breathing, but that's great.
The snoo, is the baby sleeping in your room next to you?
It's just it's like a smart bassinet. So it kind of rocks them.
Yep.
And then it senses when they're crying and rocks them harder, which sometimes makes them go back to sleep, sometimes doesn't. It's not going to soothe them back to sleep if they wake up starving. And then it looks like a straight jacket. So if you don't have kids and you see that someone's put their baby in this, you're probably wondering, like, what is this thing? But it keeps them, like, it's a swaddle, but it also attaches to the side of the bassinet so they can't roll, and it's super safe. You know, because with a normal swaddle and a bassinet, like, it's fine because lots of people do that, but they can kind of roll onto their sides, which as like a helicopter parent freaks me out. Mm-hmm. So I like that it keeps them kind of flat and mm-hmm. attached, and you know they can't move themselves into an unsafe position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to have to investigate that. So having a night nurse then, how does that work? Does the night nurse come and pick up the baby out of your room?
The baby sleeps in the room with the night nurse.
Okay, so the SNU is in the room with the night nurse.
Right, so we just, poor Sam moves this very heavy bassinet back and forth twice a day from our room back to that room on the days that we have the night nurse.
Got it.
Which is good because I think one of the things you forget is how noisy newborns can be. So even when they're sleeping, especially, you know, Owen's got some digestive stuff going on. He's grunting and kind of groaning and moving around. And as a new mom, I think your senses are so heightened that you're waking up every time you hear this sound. And, you know, they're not hungry. It's not time to feed them, but you end up getting like no sleep at all because you're waking up to every single sound. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, Sam's like sound asleep, hasn't heard anything, has no idea that the baby's made any noise. But I think just as a mom, you hear everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it wakes you up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what does it look like in terms of having to pump? So for me, my 2 kids before this, it's very different because I had to basically store all my milk because then I was on the road and not there. And I really wanted it was a lot. Like my freezer was just full, stocked. And so this time, it's the first time I'm like a stay-at-home mom and having a baby, and I'm really excited for that. But it also makes me think, wait, so do I not have to store as much milk? Like, how does this go down? Because obviously I'm going to store some, right, for other people to feed the baby, bottle feed the baby. But I guess, what does that look like for you in terms of needing to store milk and pumping? Like for me, pumping was like so important. Is that how it is for you or not as much?
It is and it isn't. I think we've had one kind of hiccup, which is that Owen developed a milk protein allergy. So I've stopped eating dairy, but it kind of stays in your system for 3 weeks. So all the milk that I had saved prior, which was a lot because your supply is a lot in the beginning, is now like kind of useless to me until he overcomes this allergy. Like maybe, you know, when he's older, he can handle it. But I do, you know, when I have the night nurse, he has some formula at night because it's hypoallergenic and we're trying to, you know, keep his stomach a little bit settled. So, you know, because I still have dairy in my system because he's only a month old and I just stopped eating it a couple weeks ago. So I'll store that milk when I pump in the middle of the night. But it hasn't been, I don't think, a huge issue. I think you can I remember with Ford, I would pump in the morning because I had a lot of milk, like once he started sleeping more. And then that would just kind of be what I saved. But you really don't need it so much if you're staying home with them.
Yeah.
So I think you'll probably be attached to your pump a lot less than you were before.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for that. I remember when I finally hung up my pump. I mean, I was in airports pumping.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't even imagine.
Oh, you have no idea. And for anyone that is traveling with breast milk, by the way, like if I was bringing it back from where I was, they test the milk to make sure that security, when you're going through security, they take your milk and they test it to make sure that it's milk and it's not some like explosive. And I'm like, I can't believe this is the world we live in.
I know. And then you're like, can you not touch that, please?
Yeah, this liquid gold. They don't open it, but they like run it through some kind of explosive device scanner or something.
Weird.
And yeah, it was very stressful. Absolutely was.
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot easier for you this time around because it is. I think pumping's terrible. I hate it. I find it painful. And everyone tells me it shouldn't be painful. I'm like, but it is painful for me. And so I have a terrible opinion of it because I just really don't enjoy doing it. But I think for you, it'll be so much better this time to just
on the go and
not need that.
Well, and the other thing is that I want to try and nurse for like a year this time because Carter he had gotten his teeth really early at 3 months.
Oh.
So at like 6 months, he like bit me.
Yep.
And then I freaked out. And then he didn't bite me again for like another 2 months. And then he bit me and I'm like, we're done. And then with Charlotte, like same thing, traveling. I was just across the country and everything. So, I mean, I think I made it to about 8 months with them. That's amazing. You know, with my stored milk too, right? But being away from your baby, your milk supply dips so much. And I would work so hard to keep it going. But like, you know.
The stress, I think too, I've heard can really lower your supply. So, you know, the more worried you are about not having enough, the harder it is to produce.
Absolutely. It's so true. And I would take all these, you know, I would do all the things to keep the milk supply up.
Right.
So how long do you plan on nursing, or how long were you able to nurse before? Is that a goal of yours? You're just kind of like, how do you feel about it?
I actually had a really terrible breastfeeding experience with Ford. He had like a ton of issues, from like a really recessed chin to like a high palate to a tongue and a lip tie. He also had the milk protein allergy and terrible reflux, and I was in so much pain because he wasn't able to latch properly pretty much ever. So, and I mean, I was a crazy woman. I had a lactation consultant once a week for 4 months. I did osteopathy. We saw an osteopath. We got craniosacral therapy on this baby. We got a tongue and a lip tie release done by a pediatric dentist. Like, I jumped through so many hoops to try to feed him and breastfeed him. And I would be nursing, and, you know, he wasn't able to get enough just because of the way that his mouth didn't function properly. So every time I fed him, I would nurse, and then I would pump, and then I would supplement him with the bottle of the pumped milk for the beginning. And it was terrible. And at 4 months, and I was in so much pain every time. I was like crying, latching him, like crying, pumping, because it was just so sore. And I went to my 4-month appointment for Ford, and I broke down crying in the pediatrician's office. And I was just like an unhinged woman. And the pediatrician looked at me and she was like, you have to stop. Because I told her all these things I was doing. And she was like, okay, you've gone a little far. And she gave me a sample of formula. And she was just like, you have to stop this. Like, you've made it 4 months. You've done so well. But like, it triggered a lot of postpartum depression for me, and it was awful. So this time I've given myself like a 6-week, like try to do it for 6 weeks. We're still having some of the issues that Ford had with Owen, but not nearly as bad. So it's not as painful for me, but you know, I'm willing to do formula a little earlier. We're doing some at night. I'm not like putting so much pressure on myself that like this has to work. So we're, you know, kind of trying to sort out some of his issues. He has the tongue and lip tie as well, but also just being like, okay, once this gets to a point where I feel like it's affecting my mental health too much, I'm just going to, you know, call it a day, because I let it get so bad with Ford that I was just, you know, almost not even capable of being a mom, because I was so like depressed, and I was just like, this has to work. I cannot accept that I will not be successful at breastfeeding. Like, it has to get better, and it just wasn't going to.
Oh my God. That like makes me want to cry. I feel so bad for you, the state that you were in, as if, you know, being a new mom, especially your first baby, and like all that stress.
And the pandemic was going on, so I wasn't like going out and seeing friends, and it just compounded.
That must have been so hard.
Yeah,
honestly.
it was not good.
But I love that you gained that perspective. And I mean, look, our kids, you know how they say colostrum is enough at first for the baby?
Right, yeah.
For my kids, it never is. So I had a similar situation, but it was like day 4 of having Carter. And then I just already knew with Charlotte that the colostrum was not enough.
Right.
And I was like, you know, we're all taught like, oh my gosh, you have to breastfeed. And when the doctor said, try some formula, because he had been up all night,
right,
I was like, no. He's like, it won't ruin your breastfeeding experience. Don't worry. And so we gave him formula, and he fell asleep for the first time in like days. And so
like, oh,
now,
thank God.
Yeah. So I have no problem, to your point, supplementing also. And I didn't have like a wonderful milk supply, but again, I worked really hard at it. But it is so stressful. it really genuinely is so stressful. And I just love that you finally like gave yourself permission to be like, it's best effort. You know,
Right.
if it works, great, but not over your mental health. I mean, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
You know, I think in our parents' generation, like their moms or our parents, all the older generations, they were like doing drugs when they were pregnant, like straight up, and I mean hard drugs, like not just like a glass of wine, and they're fine.
And we're all fine. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's fine. So I just love that you can kind of reflect on that and be like, it's fine. It's a best effort. We'll try and troubleshoot where we can, and we'll just reevaluate as we go. And I think that's the healthy way to approach it, because for you to have to go through that and, you know, have basically postpartum over it, you know, on top of everything else with the pandemic. So you had just delivered him right in time, right before COVID was officially out.
Yeah, basically 2 weeks after he was born, the whole world kind of shut down.
Oh my gosh.
Which ended up being kind of a blessing in disguise for us because Sam was home so much. And otherwise he would have started traveling like pretty soon after I delivered. But it was also such a strange time to be a new mom.
You know, my sister had delivered a couple months after you, and what I noticed, and I wonder if your experience now will be different, is for all of you guys that delivered right around that time, like pre-COVID and then into COVID, like the height of it, you guys didn't get to go to like the baby and me classes or have any of that like social outings, which even if it's once a week, it's just it's so nice to connect with women that are like not sleeping like you, struggling like you. It's just like validating. And for you guys to have missed all that, like, do you think that that's going to change for you this time? Are you going to try and connect, or are you comfortable yet? Or how does that go right now?
I think it's kind of strange because I think for the most part, you don't really go to as many of those things once you already have another baby, you know? So once you have this toddler, I think maybe women are like, okay, I've been through this before, or what are you supposed to do with this not even 2-year-old while you're going to this? So there's a mom group around here that I'm a part of that I haven't obviously gone back to since Owen was born, just because he's so little. But I'll try to do that. But it was definitely, I think, hard to miss out on that part of it. And I actually was part of a Zoom mom group, which was so much better than nothing. But you didn't make these friendships that you thought you were going to make as a new mom. And I also think that now, for me, I don't know how to take a newborn baby anywhere. So I'm so paranoid that I'm like, I can't leave the house with a newborn because I never did it during COVID because no one was going anywhere. That like, now I'm like, okay, people do take their babies to the grocery store. And here I am thinking I can't do that.
Yes.
So it's a little bit like I don't have the confidence maybe with leaving the house, which sounds so stupid, that I might have had if I didn't have a pandemic baby.
That is fascinating. And it makes perfect sense though too. And you know, with both of my kids, I was so afraid to take them out. This is way pre-pandemic, and
so maybe it's just not a pandemic thing. Maybe it's just a mom thing.
It's heightened. I think it's definitely even more so. Probably like if the pandemic was going on, I definitely would feel the same way. And with this baby, I probably won't take the baby out too much because you know there's weird stuff floating around, and they have no immune system.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if I'm going to join any of the mommy and me groups. I think I'd like to, but it's just I don't know. I'm going to have to see how I feel about this virus going on. It's just it's a weird time.
Right. So. And even not COVID, you have RSV, you have all these things to worry about, and you're just like kind of weighing everything. Like, okay, is it really worth it to go to Costco if Owen gets really sick? So it's a little bit of an isolating time when you do need that mom group support. You do need, to commiserate of like, oh my gosh, is your baby going through this sleep regression? Which, I was lucky enough to have via text with my mom group with Ford. But this time it's just kind of, talking to your friends that also have had babies, even if they aren't in the same, exact place that you are, they at least understand from before. But, it is so important to have that community when you have a newborn because you feel like no one understands, and it's just such a strange time.
It is because you're not sleeping, and also every baby is different,
mm-hmm.
And your baby could be easy and your baby could be okay. And it also changes so fast.
Oh, yeah.
So like, it's weird because, so I call the first 3 months of having a baby the dark period, because you're not sleeping, you're figuring out your baby, and you don't really remember it after it's done.
No, you don't at all. It's
like
so weird.
Blackout. It's weird. It's like, I'm convinced it's the only way we'll procreate again.
Yes. I've had that same conversation with people. It's like, if you remembered, you wouldn't do it again.
No, exactly. So you're in the dark period, which is why I was so excited for you to come here, because I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to come here. I wonder if she even slept. And it's funny because the first month is one thing, but then it's almost like as the baby gets into 2 months old, 3 months old, 4 months old, you start getting into a whole different phase of their journey, and it's changing so quickly. So yeah, it's just like the night nurse we're going to bring back. I know now, like the first time I had a night nurse, I had hired her for like the first 2 to 3 weeks.
Right. Because you think if you can just get through that period, they'll be fine, or you'll be in a rhythm, and you're not.
We'll get the routine down.
Yeah. There's no routine.
There's no routine.
There's none at all.
Well, I was laughing because last week you're like, I'm like, how's the night nurse? And you're like, oh, she's great. And she's helping us with this and that. And the only thing is that she's supposed to be done next week, and I don't know what we're going to do. And I'm like thinking, oh, that is way too early.
Yeah.
So what did you end up doing? You're hiring somebody else to help you?
So yeah, our night nurse that we've had, a few days a week couldn't continue with us, but we found someone else that could. And we're going to go through the end of January and hope that that's enough. And we're so fortunate to have that, because I have a lot of friends who don't. And I'm like, I don't know what I would do with my toddler if I wasn't getting some sleep. But, I certainly think that even though we had a baby before, Sam and I both were like, oh, by a month, he'll be sleeping whatever stretch is, and it will be manageable. And that's definitely not happening.
No.
So we have extended, and maybe it will keep me sane.
So how quickly did you introduce the bottle?
We started with a bottle actually in the hospital this time, because, with Ford, because we wanted to preserve breastfeeding, we were like syringe feeding to supplement, which was really tedious and not fun. And so I got to the point, I think night 2, where it was so painful trying to latch Owen. As you remember, I'm sure the beginning, when you're the first 2 weeks of breastfeeding is just kind of hell. And so for 1 or 2 of the night feedings, I was just like, you know what, bring the formula in. Like, I'm not going to try to pump, because I know that's going to exaggerate the pain that I'm already feeling. And so we did a little bit of it in the hospital. And so probably day 2, I would say. And it went well.
Good. That's so great. The best nipple cream that I used was Mother Love. And
yes.
It was
in the
so good.
White and pink tin. Yep, we have that.
Oh, you do? Oh my God. That was like amazing. How far along were you when you delivered? Like, what was your labor experience like?
I was 39 weeks, 2 days with both my kids.
Wow.
I induced both of them.
Oh, you did? I didn't realize that.
That was something I always said I would never do, as you do as a parent. There's so many things you're never going to do. And with Ford, my doctor was concerned about how big he was, and then he didn't end up being that big. And with Owen, I had so much anxiety about like not having family live close. And what am I going to do if I go into labor in the middle of the night and I don't have anybody to watch my toddler, and like I have to go give birth alone without Sam, which was probably such a small percentage. But I talked to my doctor, and she was like, well, like you can induce, like, which I know is easier for them. So they kind of push it. So we did that. And I tried all the things to send myself into labor. We were going on our labor induction walks, which didn't work. I was bouncing on the ball and eating the spicy food and doing all the things that don't work. And anyone listening who's pregnant will probably try them anyway, but they don't work. So I went in, and I think they could just start me on Pitocin, because I was, dilated and effaced enough. I didn't need the first pill, and it was pretty smooth. I went in at like 10 a.m. and they started Pitocin, and I delivered at like 11 p.m.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it wasn't my first experience was a little longer, my first induction, and, I spiked a fever and some things went wrong. Not terribly wrong, but just it wasn't the most pleasant. And this one was actually, it was pretty smooth. I got the epidural earlier because I didn't try to, I thought I was going to be induced on Pitocin with Ford and then still not get an epidural, which was a joke. So yeah, I got the epidural around 8 p.m. and things progressed really fast. They actually had to turn the Pitocin off because my doctor wasn't there. And I called the nurse in. I was like, I'm feeling some pressure. I don't know. Like, I know you just checked me. She was like, oh my gosh, you're at 10 and the head is right there. Do not push. Like, stay still because your doctor's not here. And so I could have had Owen probably half an hour earlier if my doctor had been there. And I was kind of like, can we just, you're a nurse, like, can we just get this thing out? Because I don't know that we need the doctor. I pushed for 5 minutes. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh, that sounds glorious.
Because with Ford, I pushed for an hour and a half, which I know is not even bad, but to me felt bad because I'd been up for you've been awake for 26 hours, you have no strength, you haven't eaten, you feel like you can't even get the baby out. That's how I felt with Ford. And with Owen, it was great, honestly. And I was so scared beforehand. I would tell Sam every day, like, I can't do it. I can't give birth again. And I know there's no choice because it's a little late now. But I would tell him every day, I was like, I don't think I can do this again. Like, I can't.
What was scaring you the most about it?
I think the pain. Because even with Ford, I had the epidural, but it I don't think technically they're supposed to wear off, but I felt a lot when Ford was coming out. My doctor actually yelled at me to get me to do the final pushes because I was like, I can't do it. It's too painful. I can't. And she was like, push. And literally screaming at me to get him out because it hurt so bad. And I imagine it would have hurt so much worse had I had no pain medicine in me at all. But I was terrified of the pain. I was terrified of the aftermath. Postpartum recovery is not fun. And I didn't think I could do it.
Wow. And that was a different hospital, right? Because you were in Santa Monica at the time. Okay. And so your doctor was also different?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Man, I love that epidural. I don't know why women, I mean, again, I don't come from a place of judgment, very much to each his own, but I gotta say, this is how I equate it for anyone that's wondering about it. It's kind of like if you have a migraine, right? It's a terrible pain going on.
Mm-hmm.
No one, does it matter if you take the Advil now versus in 3 hours and you just suffered?
Right.
What is the value there? Why? Now, listen, some people, for them, it is very important to have a non-drug, a drug-free birth for their own reasons. And I respect that fully. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm like, I'm not getting a medal. I just want it out. My birth plan is get it out.
Right.
And let me tell you, with Carter, I was induced also. 28-hour labor, very much like what you're saying. It was controlled, but it was long.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's long. And with Charlotte, I actually went into labor. I was so happy because I wanted to feel what do those labor pains feel like? And man, when your water breaks, that's when it hurts. And so I was screaming. It was like a movie. And Brian was running through the halls at Cedars we need, because it's 3 a.m. My wife needs an epidural now.
Yeah.
And, as soon as those angels come in with that wonderful drug,
mm-hmm.
they're like this sweet angels sent directly from heaven.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. People are so afraid of the epidural. I'm afraid to not have the epidural because that's the scary thing.
And I was a little bit too, just because what that needle looks like. So that's what I told Sam before we had Owen. I was like, once I get to the point of pain where the epidural needle doesn't scare me anymore, that's when we're going. And that hit me about 8 p.m. that time. I was like, these contractions are awful. And, Pitocin contractions are different than natural contractions. They kind of just hit you a little harder. You don't get any relief, or so I'm told. And it was awesome. And I think I had always heard that if you got the epidural, it would kind of stall your labor.
Yeah.
And so I was like, with Ford, I was like, okay, well, I can't get this epidural because, I'm not really dilating and it's going to stall it. But actually, I think it relaxed me enough to where it could progress faster because I wasn't so tense and like in all this pain.
Yep.
And with my second, it was, things happened faster. And it was honestly a great experience because I remember after having Ford, I was so exhausted that when they were wheeling me to the recovery room, they asked if I wanted to hold him. And I was like, I can't. Like, my arms cannot hold this baby. I'm so weak. And so I think that made me a little bit scared to deliver again, too. And it was such a better experience this time. I felt so much better afterwards. And it was just great. And I'm so glad I didn't, go through 13 hours of holding off on the epidural this time.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm very into the epidural.
Oh, I always thought I would have a natural birth because my mom did. And I was like, I can do this too. And I can't. I cannot do it.
One of my girlfriends, she did it and she missed the epidural and she called me like hours afterwards and she's like, Kimberly, the pain was like it was 100. Like she sounded traumatized from it.
That's how even with the epidural, that's how I felt after my first birth. I couldn't even talk about it. I was just like, this was awful. I hated this so much. I'm like too weak to hold my baby. I don't know what has happened to me. Like, I just thought it was the worst. And so I can't imagine how it would have been if I actually did it drug-free.
Yeah. Oh, way worse. And I think women do forget about it. But yeah, I mean, listen, shout out to the moms that can do it and good for them. But for me, it's not my journey. Again, no judgment.
No,
but
mine either.
Yeah, I cannot wait. That's like my only part of my birth plan is like, give me double of the drugs that you're serving that day because I do not want to be suffering. I just want to hold my baby. I want a safe, healthy baby. And I want it to be like not traumatic if possible.
Yes. And pain-free afterwards.
Yes.
Because, when my epidural wore off or whatever happened with the first one, you're so focused on this pain that you're feeling that you're not as focused on like your baby.
Yep.
And so for me, I think that was really important this time to be like, okay, I had a much easier birth because it was my second, because I got, the epidural sooner, because I wasn't in pain afterwards, that I feel like my bonding experience in the hospital in those days, after was so much better.
Yeah. So would you say this time around postpartum wise, you're feeling a little bit better? I mean, look, I know that you're not sleeping.
Right.
Tell us, how are you sleeping? Like, how is it going down? Give me like a night in the world of your life right now.
On the days that we are fortunate enough to have the night nurse, I'm just waking up to pump, and then the night nurse is bottle feeding, which is such a blessing.
What time do you have to wake up to pump?
I do it around like 10 p.m. and then I do it at like 1 in the morning and then at 6. So I actually probably should be going a little, I might start to lose my supply with that schedule, but as for now, it's working. So as far as having a 1-month-old, that's incredible sleep. On the nights that we don't have a night nurse, it's, the first stretch of sleep, he'll sleep like maybe 2-3 hours. And then after that, he's up every 2. So by the time you feed and burp and hold up and change the diaper and put them back in their bassinet, he's not sleeping longer than 1 hour stretches. So from, midnight, 1 a.m. onwards, I'm getting like maybe 2 hours. So it's terrible.
Oh my God. And are you sleeping when the baby sleeps? Are you up with Ford? What's going on?
I'm up with Ford. So that's the part that you don't realize, which I'm sure you remember, is you think it's so bad after your first one, which it is because you've never done it before. So everything is new and overwhelming. But once you have this toddler, maybe I can sleep during Ford's nap, but his nap never seems to coincide with Owen also sleeping. That's just like when Owen wants to be awake. So there's not a lot of sleep happening.
Oh my God. I'm not looking forward to this.
No. I think that's the hardest part because you can, when you're pregnant, I'm sure you're not sleeping well at all. In your 3rd trimester, you're up all the time and you kind of think to yourself, okay, this is preparing me for baby. But there's such a difference between like waking up and having to, use the bathroom or just laying there thinking as opposed to like, I have to actually get up and care for this baby right now.
Yep.
And I can't drag myself out of bed.
Yeah, for sure. And so you don't have any help during the day.
So we do have kind of like a babysitter nanny that helps for a couple hours in the morning, but she has been on vacation. So we've actually she's here today, which is how I'm here. Yay. Without Ford. But she's not here the rest of the week. And it's tough because when you're trying to nurse a baby and you have this not even 2-year-old, I turn the TV on. I feel like such a bad mom because I'm like, okay, come watch Frozen or else you're going to destroy my house while I'm trying to nurse this newborn. So that part's really hard.
Oh, don't feel bad because when I was working and we were in the height of the pandemic, one of the girls that has 3 kids, one of the women that I work with, she's like, oh, Anna and Elsa have been my best babysitters.
Oh, it's true. It's amazing. Ford won't watch many things, but Frozen does it for him.
Yes, I love Frozen too. I know. And Carter loves it as well, by the way. So it's definitely good because it's for boys and girls. So did Ford have any reaction or is he too young? Because my kids were way too young to have any oh, this is your sister. How cute. We didn't have that.
I think he had a little bit. We got a baby doll to practice, which was both good and bad because now he thinks he can pick this baby up the same way he can pick his baby doll up by the foot, which he can't. I think it's starting to hit him a little bit more now. In the beginning, my mom was here for 2 weeks and, she's a former first grade teacher. So she's the best with kids, constant activities, crafts, it was probably better than Ford having me. He was so happy. And then she left and my mother-in-law came. And so Ford was getting all this attention. And now that it's kind of back to normal, he's a little clingier, a little whinier. He's pretty indifferent about the baby. He'll go pat him on the head or say, uh-oh, if the pacifier comes out. But I can start to sense a little bit of okay, he's feeling neglected by mom and it's making him clingy or cry or, just a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, 2 under 2 is definitely the hardest.
Yeah. Not sure why we did that, but here we are.
Oh, don't worry. We did it too before.
You did it even harder than we did because how close are your kids?
16 months apart. Yeah. So I got pregnant again at 7 months.
Okay.
Postpartum.
And it's also hard to take care, which I'm sure you're still feeling. It's hard to take care of other kids when you're in your 3rd trimester and you're big and you can't really lift them as easily or you don't have the energy to play with them or getting up off the floor. It takes, a lot longer than it used to.
2 babies. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I can speak for my son. Carter he was 16 months old when Charlotte came around. He wasn't potty trained.
Right.
By the way, thank God our nanny had gotten him potty trained very early, right before he was 2, which was fabulous. But they don't have words. They're babies still. But they're mobile babies, so they're even harder. And then you have a newborn. And, when they're not really walking and talking and they're really not self-sufficient, it's so hard. But I will say it's going to pay off because now the kids completely entertain each other. Right. And I could be totally off doing my own thing or, it's very different once they get to be about 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. You're home free because they're out of the house, even if it's just a couple days a week. See, even baby Owen is excited.
Yes.
And they're little best friends. And that's how your boys are going to be. And it's going to be the everyone cutest tells me. Thing.
That's what I'm banking on.
You will. I mean, you're going to pay for it up front, but then it pays off big time. I mean, during the pandemic, I'm so happy I had the 2 kids and that they were close in age and they could play together. And it's like having your built-in best friend all the time. And they fight a little bit, but it's not really I thought they'd fight way worse, to be honest. And they're insanely obsessed with each other. Carter is so proud of his sister and Charlotte is obsessed with him. And they're just the cutest. They say the funniest things together. And yeah, this is definitely going to be the hardest part.
Mm-hmm. I thought initially, I was okay, just the first year will be hard. And that's so funny to be oh, just the first entire year. Until Owen's walking and he's just a little less fragile. But now I'm hearing it's more the first 2 years are tough and then it gets better.
Yeah. And listen, if you can hire someone to help you just so that you're not as stressed out, it's worth it. I mean.
Oh yeah. I think that's how I feel about the night nurse. I'm I would rather get no Christmas birthday gift, not go on any vacation for the next 3 years than not have this night nurse.
Yep.
I think it's just kind of your own mental health and sanity. And it's just, you don't need the help for that long once they're in school. You're kind of home free. But for now, it's good to have a village around you.
It is. It is. Oh my gosh.
Apparently, he doesn't want to have a village.
Oh, he loves his village. I'm so glad he's making little baby noises so everyone realizes that he literally is here. And I was hoping he was going to make his cute little baby noises. He's like such a little old man, by the way, little Owen. He is so cute.
He's so wrinkly.
I die for him. Like, he is like the cutest baby. He just is in her little, is that a baby Bjorn or what is it?
This is the Artie Pop.
Oh, it's very chic. There's like,
it's the fancy one.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Highly recommend.
Okay.
When someone throws you a baby shower, hint, someone needs to get you the Artie Pop.
The Artie Pop?
Yes.
Artie Pop. Okay. There's like, it looks like there's jewelry on it almost. Like,
yeah, and they have really fun patterns. I, as you can tell, really like black.
Yeah.
But they have like a denim one that's really cute that one of my friends has, and they're really comfy, and it's a good one.
Is it easy to put on? Because I remember being so intimidated by
this one is easy to put on because I have like the Solly baby wrap that I had that one on the other day, and that one's a little more complicated. But when they're newborns, I think it's better. But this one's so easy. I wear it around the house all the time because,
oh my gosh,
this is how we get Ford down for his nap, is by wearing Owen.
Oh my goodness. I think I'm going to have to get that one because it's cute. There's like gold metal hardware on it. Like, it's like chic.
It's cute. I'll send you the link.
And he's so happy in there.
Oh, yeah. And Ford hated carriers. I'm so happy Owen has no choice because I have to get things done, but he's so much better in them.
Oh my gosh. He is so cute. I'm so happy for you and Sam. Congratulations.
We're so excited.
Do you think you're going to have any more? I'm asking you this as you're like.
I've always wanted 3. And when I was pregnant with Owen, I don't love being pregnant. And I'm so fortunate to be able to be pregnant and have healthy babies, but I just don't like it. I don't think it's fun. I hate not feeling like my body is my own. And so when I was pregnant with him, I was like, okay, we're done. And, when he started to have the reflux and the milk protein allergy and the fussiness, I was like, for sure, this rules out the 3rd baby. And then you're kind of like, well, I don't know. Maybe I do want another one. But I would wait longer for sure. Mm-hmm.
You're young, aren't you? How old are you?
I'm almost 30. I turn 30 next month.
Oh, happy birthday. Wow. Gosh, you've gotten so much done before you're 30 already. Well, yeah, you have plenty of time then.
Yeah, I look at like what you're doing with your kids are a little bit older. They're so excited for baby sister. You're not going to worry about them breaking every single thing in your house while you're nursing or like electrocuting themselves. And I think that's the way to go with number 3.
Yeah, I think I agree. Ideally, I really did want them 2 years apart, like all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't happen for us, as you know. And now I see how it's actually a blessing because it's just so much easier. The kids are out of the house from 8 to 2.
Right.
Next year it'll be 8 to 3.
It's kind of like, it feels very calm in here.
Yeah. Like,
doesn't
right
feel
now,
like this in my house.
No, I know that. I know it doesn't feel that way in your house. You can come here, by the way, anytime and have a little drink or a nap.
See you at 11. I'll be on your couch.
Absolutely. I'll just let Sam know that you're safe. But yeah, well, anyway, I'm so happy for you. And thank you for coming.
Of course.
Thank you for even joining us during the dark period. That's like super stellar that you were able to muster yourself up and
walk next door.
And walk next door and like put on makeup. Not that you need any makeup. And just really share this. And yeah, I'm just so happy for you guys.
Thank you. And we can't wait to see yours.
I know.
So soon.
And then we can start like being the moms that are walking with our strollers together. It's going to be so cute.
It'll be so fun.
They're going to be like little boyfriend and girlfriend.
I know. I'm waiting on that. I think that's going to happen.
All right. That is it for today. Now, as you know, some of our best conversations actually happen after the show. So I want you to find me on Instagram at Kimberly Lovey and let me know your thoughts about today's show. You can screenshot this episode and let us know what your biggest takeaway was and tag me at Kimberly Lovey and we can share it on our stories. I will see you again, same time, same place next week.